Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Texas, to the bike shop, and to our channel where we love mountain bikes and we like to talk about mountain bikes. And today is no exception, where we're going to talk about a very expensive mountain bike, one that's been around for a while. It was redesigned a few years back, but it's always kind of been on my radar now that I have a downcountry bike. So the bike we're talking about today, you can get one that's aluminum for about 2,600 bucks. But it also can go up to the highest end carbon for 15,000. So big range there. We're going to talk about one that's kind of in the upper middle-ish part. So let's get started. And here's the Scott Spark. So this bike has been on my radar for a while. We don't sell them at the shop, but we do admire them and we respect them. This one here is a customer's bike that he just recently purchased, and he has a little bit of a creaking issue that we're diagnosing. So I wanted to talk about it here because I haven't on the channel before been able to talk about the Spark. So a lot of you probably know who Scott is. They've been around for quite a while in the mountain biking world, especially in lightweight cross-country racing. If you haven't heard of like Nino Schurter, Kate Courtney, very high-level, world-class athlete. So yeah, Nino Schurter being, I don't know how many times now he's won the World Cup. So he's an amazing rider. Kate Courtney's won as well. And they both ride Scotts. So as far as the different models of Spark, they have this one, which is the Spark, which is 900, and they go up to 970 each trim. The lower the number, the higher the trim, or lighter or more expensive components, etc. 970 being the aluminum, not as high in specs. Then they have the Spark RC, which that one is even more aggressive as far as like a race bike. So a little bit less travel, has 120 millimeters on that one instead of 130 on all the other Spark models. So those, if you're looking for like your lightest weight, most efficient builds, then the Scott Spark RC is what you want. So this model is the 900 with Axis, which we'll talk about, wireless shifting. This one, $9,000 MSRP as of 2024. All right, so color options on the Spark. It varies on aluminum or carbon. So you have some pretty cool colors. I like a lot of the offerings that they have. For whatever reason, I like the color palette. If you're a burgundy guy, this has a sweet like black, I don't even know exactly how to describe the paint on this one, but it has like the black spark down here. It's weird. It looks almost like hollow clear, but the clear coat on the carbon looks really sweet. So if you're a red burgundy guy, this paint job is pretty dialed. All right, so let's talk about the frame on the Scott Spark because yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. And we'll get to the suspension. Where's the shock? Well, we'll talk about that in a second. But first, let's go over some of the features on it. First of all, we'll just look at the aesthetics of it. I think it's a real clean-looking design. The way they designed the linkage and the top tube, down tube. So we'll start at the back with the frame. You have your normal seat stays here and chain stays. These chain stays are not size specific, which I thought was a little bit surprising. So same size for any size. So maybe you're smaller or you're really larger riders, you have to deal with the same chain stays. But they are pretty beefy, at least thickness here. They're not super thick here. Your seat stay, this is a flex stay, so you don't have any pivots here. But they look strong enough. They're not like teeny tiny like some bikes. So they should be nice and durable for even your bigger riders. Little flap here. I actually don't know what that one's for. I'll talk about some of the other ones on here. You have a shock bolt right here, which I'll talk about why that's there. And then over here, so when you undo this little door here, you find the shock coming under there. So the rear shock is actually hidden inside of the frame, which is pretty interesting. So that's the big thing. So Scott acquired Bold Bikes in 2019, or they took a majority stake in them, I believe. But they're the ones that kind of had that design in their bikes. And then Scott basically, I guess, borrowed or used the design since they're one of the owners or bigger owners now. It's interesting, that it's inside there, keeps it nice and clean. Good or bad, well, it is what it is. It's inside. So you have the bottom of your shock. It's flipped upside down right there. But it's easy enough to lock so that obviously it doesn't loosen. You have your Scott logo right there. One of the pros of the design, you get the shock out of the way, and then you have plenty of room for your water bottles, which if you like to drink water and not carry a pack, not a bad feature there. My spur, I guess, also does, but you gotta put your bottle under here, so potentially going to get a lot dirtier than the setup. And you also have a mount here for, you know, tools and stuff. Yeah, I do like that line, that top tube too. Like right here, it's really thick right here, and then it slowly goes down here. And you can see how narrow it is right there, which is pretty cool. It's a real slick look, which they did a good job with the carbon layup on this. There's your Scott 900 right there. Your head tube over here with the large Scott logo. They are proud of their Scott logo, unlike, you know, the tiny Trek logos. Now, one thing I do have to point out, which we'll talk about, is where are your holes for your cables? Well, yeah, you look down here and there are no visible cables at all. The only visible cable is right over here for your rear brake caliper, which is pretty crazy. Most bikes, you know, you're going to have them somewhere. So Scott, instead of having them come out of the frame, they decided, well, they're going to come out right over here. So this is, you know, debatable whether it's cleaner to put it all right here. So it goes into the stem and down into the head tube here, which we'll talk about this in a little bit, but there are some pros, there are some cons about routing your dropper and everything basically through your stem. But that's the route that they made to give you this nice clean cockpit, which we'll talk about in a sec. All right, so geometry numbers and reach. So geometry, when this was redesigned in 2022, was pretty aggressive, especially for 22. 65.8 head angle is stock. You do have an option to flip this around to make it steeper if you want it to be a little more XC, a little more climbing, but 65.8. And for your seat tube, 76.4, which one thing I will note, because of that design, you are limited on insertions. So if you are a tall leg person, then yeah, you do not have a ton of insertions. Yeah, geometry, this one, actually don't know if this is a medium or large. They don't have any labeling on here. 440 reach on the medium, 470 for the large, so about on par with a lot of similar bikes. My spur has a little bit more reach, 10 millimeters more on the size medium. All right, let's go over the suspension on the Spark. Up front, you have the Fox 34 factory. So if you are a Kashima person, you got Kashima, which looks good, I think, with his burgundy. And over here, you have the Fit 4 damper. So because they have lockouts, Scott loves lockouts and things, and I'll show that in just a second. No knob here, so you use a lever over here, one of these mini levers. And you can basically put it into 3 different modes: their descend mode, their traction control, or their lockout mode, basically. So Fit 4 damper, I know a lot of people like it. Some people would have rather see the Grip 2, which is what the normal Fox 34 has, but you have your rebound control up under here. So I have the Fox 34 without Kashima on my spur, and I like the fork so far, real smooth, plenty of travel for me. So yeah, 130 millimeters of travel up front. And if you could see it, in the back you have your 120 millimeter Fox Nude shock, which also is wired to the lockout. This uses a single pivot design with your flex stays, which I talked about a little bit in a second. But yeah, and you have the different positions that will lock out your rear shock as well. And nobody will see it, but you also have matching Kashima in there. So if you ever pull it out, you can show it off. So they have this little door here where you can see after a ride if you've totally maxed out your suspension and you need to adjust it more. So I guess that's like your shred window. If you had a real beefy ride, you can see if you blew through all your travel or not. For sag, usually you have that ring to see, but on this, you have to look at the sag indicator here to see what your sag is. So kind of interesting design there. And for your drivetrain, you have your SRAM X01 carbon cranks. 32 tooth chainring. I don't know the lengths. They have the booty on here, but probably 170 or 175 is what my guess would be. Hopefully 170. I will note this is a press fit bottom bracket. Most people aren't huge fans of. A lot of brands are starting to go away from the press fit. Just maintenance and stuff, a little bit difficult to remove or replace because you got to pop them out, press them in. So press fit bottom bracket. You have an X01 chain, and in the back you have your lightweight X01 cassette, which this is one solid piece. That's why it's light and that's why it's expensive, because the manufacturing process is pretty cool. I've had this cassette on other bikes in the past. And you have your X01 wireless derailleur. So this is a 1052 tooth cassette, so lots of range. And your shifter here, I don't know if it comes, this is what I have on my bike as well with these rockers. I don't know if it comes standard or he already switched it out from the stock one that they used to come out with, but I like this one a lot better than the original pod shifter. And for your dropper post, you get the Fox transfer, also with Kashima, so Kashima everywhere. 150 millimeters on the large, 125 on the medium. And this is a Synchros Tofino saddle, so it looks pretty cool. Looks sharp with this color, kind of different. Comfort-wise, I think you need to look elsewhere. This is lightweight. It says it has titanium rails, so yeah, high-end saddle. And for your cockpit, this is definitely different than a lot of the bikes we've talked about. This is the Synchros Fraser. As you can see, it's integrated into your stem, so if you want to change your stem, well, you're out of luck. So 760 long, this is about effectively a 60 millimeter stem, so it puts you out front pretty well. And as you can see, if you ever want to like change stuff, Scott's always a little bit difficult with that. In the past, I've had issues, trying to change handlebars. Not on this bike, but on some of their other models, they just have some issues. So compatibility wise, sometimes a bit frustrating when you're mixing and matching, but if you like this stock setup, then you're fine. So this side obviously is very clean and simple. You have integrated, your shifter is actually integrated with your brake lever, so saves you on clamps. But on the left, it gets a bit complicated, as you can see. So as we've gone minimalist on the right side, we've kind of stepped back, 10, 20 years as far as the left. I'm just kidding. No. So, levers galore. So basically the bottom one sticks out a little bit more. That's your dropper lever. These other levers are for the Scott Twinlock system. So like I mentioned earlier, you have, when it's full open, that's your descend mode, and you move it to the middle position. So that moves, the rear shock moves, and then that gives you 80 millimeters of travel. So that's like your traction control mode, they say. So you have some travel, but it stiffens up the suspension to maximize your efficiency. And then you push it again, and that will then lock out the fork. And the rear shock. So you are very stiff and very efficient for climbing mode. And then when you're done with all the climbing and you've got to the top of the mountain, just don't forget to release it as it goes down into the descend mode. So love it, hate it, that's what you got. If you go to new brakes or want to change anything in the future, well, good luck. For your grips, you have your Synchros lock-ons, which feel good. And for your brakes, you have Dior XT 4-piston. So if you're a Shimano brake guy, you got some pretty good brakes. Although at this price point, I probably would have liked to see XTR, but oh well. Your Shimano XT 4-piston calipers, which look pretty sweet with your fancy fin brake pads. And these Ice Tech 180 millimeters center lock rotors in the front and in the back. 180 millimeters center lock as well. Before I forget, I will mention this back here, which is kind of a cool feature that Scott has. So you can obviously remove your wheel with this to remove the axle, or if you pull it out right there, gives you a few tools. All right, wheels and tires in the back. You have these, one of the reasons this is a $9,000 build is you get some Synchros carbon wheels, which are probably pretty light and lighter than the ones I have on my bike. But for your hubs, you have a DT Swiss 370 hubs with the XD driver, of course, for the X01 cassette. And in the front, Boost, DT Swiss 370, Synchros carbon. And for your tires, you get some Schwalbes, Schwalbe Wicked Will. Schwalbe names always crack me up. I don't know who Will is, but apparently he is a bad dude. But 29 by 2.4 tires. These are going to be a fast rolling, given the type of bike this is. So in the back and in the front, you will find the same tire, the Wicked Will. I don't know, with the dark red and the the tan walls, or the dark tan walls. I think it looks pretty sick. All right, so that's gonna do the specs and features for the Spark 900. What do you guys think? A lot of features, a lot of interesting innovations and technology on this bike. So this one weighs in at just over 25 pounds, so about 2 pounds lighter than my Spur. Yeah, so it's a pretty lightweight bike. Obviously the base one, you're gonna be about 33 pounds, the aluminum 970 build, and then the $15,000 one is just over 22.7 pounds. So yeah, a lot of money. That one has all the features and tech. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do the specs and features of the Scott Spark 900. Let me know what you guys think of this high-end bike. Obviously, you can get the lesser one that's heavier in aluminum if you like the design and you like Scott and you don't mind the weight. If you have a pretty big budget, you're doing pretty well, and you want a bike that has all the goodies, and you're like, you know what, I like riding and I want some nice stuff, then the 900 or one of the other options could be the way to go. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you have any questions on the Scott Spark. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment if you have any questions or you want to talk about the bike, and hope you're doing well. We'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.